welcome back to Opal&Mint. I am Ashley and today we're going to be painting some flowers. I'm going to be continuing my series of painting a flower in 4 different styles, 4 different ways, however you want to word that. The first flower I did was a sunflower, and today we're going to be talking about tulips. So I'm going to show you 4 different ways, 4 different styles of painting tulips, and I've been painting some tulips here and there, but I don't actually know which 4 styles I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna start painting and see what happens. So let's dive into painting some flowers. I'm excited about this. Tulips, I personally think, are the easiest flower to paint. You can obviously get super detailed and make it a little bit more difficult, but you can do a very, I don't know why I'm talking with my hands so much, but you can do a very simple tulip in watercolor. So I'm excited to show this to you. Let's just get to painting. Some flowers that I painted in practice for this, wrong way. And this ended up being my favorite, this muted blue, absolutely gorgeous. So there are some just different styles. Let's see here. Okay. Let's get to painting. This microphone is in my way. There we go. I am definitely gonna paint some, I think I'm gonna start with this style because I really like that muted blue. I believe I painted that with my ocean paper paints. So, let's see here. I've been hearing that ocean paper, the company, is not responding to emails, messages, and people are ordering and never getting their order, and these are not cheap paints. So I did want to mention that because I do have several ocean paper videos. I personally love the paint. Now, I haven't personally had a problem with customer service or with getting my orders, but I've heard that some people have been. So I wanted to note that just so you're aware of it, but I don't know. I did try to reach out to them on Instagram to let them know I was getting these comments and haven't heard back from that. So I'm not sure. I just know I love the paints, but it could be risky ordering from them. I don't know. I will keep you updated though if I do hear from the company. Anyways, I'm going to continue using these paints because I love them and I have them and I spent a lot of money on these. This was like $370. So I'm going to use these paints. This blue right here is absolutely gorgeous, and that is the one I'm going to use for the kind of vintagey blue tulips. Okay, with that out of the way, let's paint some tulips. I think I'm just going to cut this into 4 and we'll do our 4 different styles here. You know what? I have a straight edge right here. So get us some quadrants here. Okay. All right, let's paint. All right, so this first style is going to be kind of a loose style. A lot of these will be loose. Again, let's see here. This is what we are going for. And I also put in a little bit of a shimmery paint in there as well. So I'm gonna do that. But this is the style that we're going for. So let me show you how I painted that. I'm gonna get some of this blue. And like I said in the intro, painting tulips can be as simple as you would like. Like, it does not have to be complicated. We're just gonna start by putting in a petal there. I feel like it should be zoomed in even more. And then I'm just gonna go along the side. I am using a filbert brush. This is a size 10. And just very loose strokes. So this is a fairly closed tulip right here that I'm starting with. And while that is wet, I'm gonna take a muted green. Again, I'm staying with this like vintagey feel to get the stem. All right, let's do another perspective. So this one, we're gonna start petal shape here. So this is the side of the tulip here. And it's gonna go in And then we're going to take another one here, making sure to leave a little bit of white space so it's not just one big blob. And then kind of doing just some marks here so you can see a center and some back petals. Okay. Again, about as simple as it gets. And these stems on tulips are fairly substantial. Okay, let's do another one. I want to have one that's a little bit more open. Kind of didn't put those in a very good spot, did I? This one's kind of awkward. That's okay. Okay, so this one is going to open up a little bit. I'm going to do one more. Again, making sure to leave a little bit of that white space and not being too fussy about the shapes of your petals, keeping it loose. Lift a little bit of that color. I hate this brand of paper towel that I'm using. Okay, getting the green. All right, and then the petals, what are these called? The leaves from these are just going to be long and skinny, and just kind of placing them amongst these flowers, overlapping, going behind. And maybe one twisting down. Okay, so there are the blue ones. I do want to add in the little bit of sparkle because I think it's pretty. Let's see here. So I'm going to take these pearl colors. This is the gold and silver palette from I don't know how you say this brand name and I don't want to say it wrong, but I'm going to take the silver shade. I love the silver with the kind of antique blue, muted gorgeous blue. So I'm just going to get a little bit of this. And I'm just going to put a few, not too watered down, few little strokes here and there, just kind of accenting these petals, and maybe even down the center of the leaves as well. Just giving it a little bit of something extra. Okay, so there is the first style of tulip. I think this one is probably my favorite. Gorgeous, loose, easy to do. Oh, the sun has changed. Sorry, it got a little bright. All right, so I'm gonna put the Daniel Smith paints to the side. Daniel Smith. the ocean paper and get my Daniel Smith paints. Style 2. This one we're gonna do one tulip, and I started with the filbert brush, but I wanna move to a different one to show you can do use different brushes for different styles. So I want this one to be kind of a pinky peach color. So I'm gonna get some pink. It's not really on the screen, is it? And add a little bit of this yellowy orange here. Water this down quite a bit. All right, so for this one, we're gonna start with a light wash and then add details. So scoot that over so I have room here. So we're gonna do one tulip, and this one, very, very light color here. So we've got this side of the tulip, and then we're going to come on this side. So same kind of shapes here as these other ones. Keeping this pretty loose and light. We will add details to this flower, but I want that to dry before I go in with my details, because I want to do wet on dry for the details. So there is the first layer of this one, and let me go ahead and, oh, I said I was changing brushes and I did not. We'll change for this next one. So let's get a little bit of a stem coming out of that tulip. Okay, I'm gonna let that one dry. We're gonna move on to the third style. So for this next style, I'm gonna do a black and white. So I want you to picture a black and white photo of a tulip, and that's what we're gonna be going for. So, I think I'm actually gonna go in with my Christy Rice watercolor curious brush, the cat's tongue. And so to do a black and white flower, we are going to obviously use black. Now I could mix up my own. Let's see, what do I have in this palette here? I'm gonna take a little bit of, here, put this on here, a little bit of Payne's Gray with this brown that's just already on here, and I'm gonna use this color. Oh, you can't even see it. So I took a little bit of Payne's Gray and a little bit of a brown that was on there. Get a little bit of brown, and I'm gonna use this as my black or gray. I wanna have a reference photo. So a lot of times when I'm painting flowers, I pretty much always have a reference photo, unless it's one I've done a million times. But I like to be able to see how the flower, where the veining is, where the shades are, the shadows are, sometimes where the different colors start and stop. So I'll pick a photo, that's beautiful, of a tulip, and I will go kind of based on that. So I'm gonna turn this one into black and white basically. So I've got a little bit of that gray on my brush. So I'm gonna start with this first petal shape. Okay, I'm going to pick up some of that. And I'm going to get it deeper at the base of this petal. So for this style or technique or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to be doing one petal at a time. So I'm going to get this bottom part and make it a little bit deeper. Ooh, too much. Get that center line going up here. Kind of goes all the way to the tip of that. Okay. Then I'm trying to lift. Let me get a dry brush actually and lift a little bit along these edges. Okay. And then the lines kind of go out like that from the center. Okay, I'm gonna let that one alone. I will layer up some more depth to that in a little bit, but let's go on to the next petal. So again, I'm looking at a reference photo here, and I'm just going to kind of slowly, and honestly, if I was just doing this without the camera being on and everything, I would have taken the time to sketch this out first, because it is a lot easier if you have a sketch to follow. So that's what I would recommend, is starting with a sketch. And I'm just kind of eyeballing where I want this petal, but I definitely recommend sketching first. Sorry, I'm kind of just painting silently right now, concentrating on the shape of this. And I'm not trying to make this like super realistic, but I do want to follow it a little bit more closely than just the other like loose style of ones that I have going on already. So getting these petal shapes in will be kind of a first step, and then I will put in more detail after this first layer dries. Alright, so I'm just putting in some more shadows on this. Kind of going up and out with that. And then I'm going to let this dry. And then I'll go in with some more sharp details. Okay, so while that one's drying, we will go back to this one. All right, so I'm going to get a round brush, because that's what I intended to do in the first place for this flower. I'm All right, this is a Fine Touch number 2 round, and I'm going to come back to this color, but we're going to get a little bit more concentrated. There we go. Okay, let's get off some of the saturation there. Okay, so let's put in some details on this one. And we're gonna start, again, kind of at the base, and the trick to this is making sure your lines are curved. So your detail lines need to curve with your petals. So following the curve of that tulip, just putting in a little bit of detail and kind of wiping your brush off to get a lighter bit of that paint. Layering some more detail down here. And then adding some detail marks to these back petals as well. Add in some depth here. Keeping it loose, but trying to just add a little bit of shadow. Then I want to get a little bit more of a yellow tone. So I'm adding in a little bit color variation coming through here. A little bit of that yellow, super watered down. I like having a little bit of yellow on the tulips that are pink and corally. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'll have one more layer of details to finalize some of that. Let's go back to this one as it's drying a little bit. And then the last one will be another pretty simple one. So going back to this Payne's Gray, and I think this is Van Dyke Brown. Those are the two that I'm mixing up here. Adding in some veining coming from this center line here. And shadows curving around this outer part of the petal. Remembering to wipe off excess pigment when it's too much. Okay, and then let's work on these back ones a little bit. So this one needs to be pretty deep. Trying to get a nice shadow there so you can see the difference in those two petals, like so. And then here as well. Right, going to this side. Fairly sharp color here. fading that up, wiping off some of that pigment. There. All right, and then getting this back petal, help define some of the shapes of these petals up here by getting that line nice and dark and then fading it up into the rest of that petal. Wiping off the brush, smoothing out that line, coming almost to the top of that because it's got a little bit of curve over it. Okay, so there is that tulip. There's definitely, could keep adding detail to this, but let's see here as I keep adding detail. Can't stop. Somebody take the paintbrush from my hand. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pull down the stem. So this is not just a floating tulip here. Okay. And I get a leaf coming up here. All right, so there is my black and white one. Not absolutely perfect, but yeah, I think I should stop. I say that as I keep putting paint on the paper. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that one alone and we're gonna move on to this one. So this one, I want it to be super, really sloppy. Let's see here. I'm gonna take the Princeton Snap size 10. And what color should we do next? I feel like we need to go lavendery. Okay, so this one I just want, lay down this kind of teardrop shape here. Okay. And then come on this side. This one, I don't want you to concern yourself a ton with white space, but just a little bit. And then take one more petal here. And again, that little back bit. Okay. So this one is just going to be kind of blocked in color. I want to take a little bit of a deeper purple. Well, that's not purple, is it? I thought this was purple. Oh, it just had some yellow on top of it. That's why. And just do a couple of lines here and there. Smooth those out. Of a little bit of a deeper purple, just so we have a tiny bit of contrast going on. Okay, and let's go ahead and put in a stem on this one as well. Okay, and I'm going to show you, this one's not done. I'm going to show you what we're going to do to this one in a second, but this one has to fully dry before we do that. So Again, let's take this, get a leaf. Okay. All right, so let's finish this one up. This one is almost done. It has some detail, but I want to add just tiny, tiny, tiny amount more. Trying not to go too crazy. Oops. I'm gonna take this. It's very small. This is called Happy Painting from Christy Rice. This is a number 2 round. And we are gonna go, oh, that one's really deep, into pretty much just straight this deep pink. And I wipe most of it off on the paper towel. So I have just a little bit left. And I'm gonna do some just light, very, very light strokes with this pink. And again, following the shape of those petals, getting more, wiping it off. Whoops, don't want a ton on the brush. I'm gonna go kind of along this petal and adding just a little bit of detail. Very loosely, again, trying to keep the curve of that. And then we're gonna add in a little bit here. Let's get this, whoops, wet. Put in a little bit more of that shadow. There you go. All right, so there is that tulip. Pretty. Can't stop, won't stop. You can't make me. Okay, I'm done. All right, so we have super loose here. Very no fuss, super loose. We've got loose and then layered, and then we've got black and white. This one ended up being a little bit messier than I wanted it to be, but I did want to just show you in black and white because I like these better. These were a little bit looser in black and white, and I think they were really pretty. But let me show you what we're going to do with this one to finish this. I actually like this one just the way it is. I kind of want to leave it, but I was going to outline it in black. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to do a fifth one. I'm just going to do a fifth option because I think that one looks too pretty loose like that. So we're going to do one more. I'm so sorry. Let's make a color. So I've got some blue and green mixing together here. I want to take a little bit of orange. Oh, we're getting somewhere. A tiny bit more of that blue. I'm going to take some of this lavender. Again, these are Daniel Smith paints. Take a touch of this yellow. Let's get this one. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. If you don't know me yet, you should know that I love color mixing. Okay, so that's got, it's blue with a good green undertone, and I want to take a little bit, tiny touch of this red, and then a tiny touch of this orange. Okay. Oh, hold on. I splattered on there. Okay, we're almost done, fellows. That was weird. We're almost done, guys. So I am the definition of a messy painter, okay? All right, so again, we're just gonna do teardrop shape here. Yeah. Do a second one here. Coming in here. And one back here. Okay. There is the shape. Then I'm gonna get some green. Kind of letting those melt together there. This is Cascade Green, by the way, that I'm using right here. Okay, all right, we're gonna let that dry. I'm actually gonna dry it with the heat gun, and then I will do the outline. So this style right here is one of the easiest ways to paint flowers, putting just a blob of color down and outlining it in a fine liner. One of the simplest ways to do any kind of flower. So I'm just taking a fine liner. This is actually the Prismacolor Premier, that was beautiful, 5. Can add a couple of little wiggles. Get your line, kind of make it a little bit irregular. And coming in like so. And doing your back one there. And just outlining. Going over the lines or under the lines, some different stylized things, and then doing just a few, again, hatching marks basically to add a little bit to your flowers. Okay, so there is a bonus 5th style. All right, so there's tulips 4 ways, 5 ways. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you, I also just, I feel like I have to do disclaimers just because it's the internet and people always have something to say. But anyways, these are not the only ways you can paint tulips. These are just some ways that I have been painting tulips lately. And if you try any of these, I would love for you to tag us on Opal&Mint on Instagram. But let me know which one is your favorite in the comments below, and let me know what your favorite flower to paint is. I would like to keep this series going. I would like to keep doing a flower 4 different ways. So if you have a certain type of flower that you would like to see in this series, let us know in the comments below, because I'm not sure which one I want to do next. I'm thinking I might want to tackle roses. I feel like that's a very common one, or peonies. Those are very common. But tulips just have my heart and they're a favorite. Daisies are actually my favorite flower though, so it might be daisies. We'll see. All right guys, but that wraps it up for this video. If you did enjoy this, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you want to see our future videos, hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Too many things for you to do. And today we're gonna be painting. What flower did I do? How can I not remember that? This was my first one. Sunflower? It was a sunflower, that's what it was.